Hi, this is Lisa from Question the Narrative, and I am joined here today on Tuesday, November 18th, by two wonderful guests, Honey Golden and Abby Wynn. Abby, it's been quite some time since you and I have had a chance to chat. How are you, Abby, and how are you, Honey?
Good,
I'd love to give
good.
you a hug. I miss you. It's been ages.
Oh, I know. I wish I could have been up there. It's kind of fun. Everything good up in Ireland?
Well, I just got a big order in of all my. I've gone a bit crazy. You know, I love gardening. I think the last time you and I spoke, Lisa, I actually had a big, huge shopping trolley full of plants I was buying
That's
at the
exactly
stage.
right. You were showing us all the all the different
Oh, I
flowers.
know, I
Yeah.
know, but I just got fritillaria, which are my new love, and I haven't grown all of them yet. So I just planted them, and so I'm very excited.
Uh, Very
So
good.
yeah, it's like the old garden things getting ready for winter. It's getting dark here, and looking at ways to keep myself lit up from the inside. That's really kind of how I am at the moment. So how are
That's
you?
beautiful. I'm really good. I've just been getting over this, whatever I've had, which I'm going to call it an upgrade, a very big upgrade, in my physical body. But it's really good. And I'm actually here. I'm traveling. I'm in Zurich, Switzerland, and I took to get from southern Italy up here, I had to go through Milan and take a train from Milano to Zurich. And it was the most glorious, beautiful views of pristine lakes and alpine houses. So it was lovely. So that's been a nice treat, even though it's been a work trip. So lovely. Very
Wonderful.
good. Thank you. And Miss Honey, how are
Well,
you today?
I'm doing good. I'm also having kind of an upgrade at the moment. Lots of stuff going on in the pituitary and the pineal. And my body's like, what is all this? So I've been waking up really puffy eyes. And so I ordered
Mm.
some stuff to kind of help my body process things out. But I think we don't really realize how many things have been accumulating, in certain glands and different things. And really, right now, it's like caretaking the body is
Mm.
a big
Mm.
thing. And you're honoring your like human self as you do that. So
Yeah.
I've really been working on that a lot lately.
Yeah, this body is what's taking us from where we were to where we're going, or where we are probably almost right now. And it's really important to honor that. I don't know about you, but I actually slept, I think, for an entire day on Saturday, which I haven't done in years. It was like, okay, I'm not getting up. Oh, well, it's 11. Okay, maybe it's later, and it's later. So we all needed that. We all needed a little bit of rest to do that kind of a thing.
I can't sleep at all. I'm the opposite.
And that's the way I've been, Abby, for so long. It just was like caught up. It's like saying, "Oh my gosh, it's crazy." But does everybody feel this such strong energy in their body, like they are racing and they have so many thoughts and so many things you can do right now?
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Feels
was putting
very
it down to the
frantic.
solar flares because we just
Hmm.
had all those X flares the last couple of weeks, and that energy's still hitting us. And so I find I get a little restless when that happens.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's why they can't sleep and everything. Well,
Yeah.
I think we all have like something we wanted to chat about today, which I think would be very good. So why don't I start, and then I will ask you both this question and see if you're curious about this, and then Honey and Abby will do that. But I've been thinking about this lately, and I'll use Trump as an example. Not that it's the only one, but as an example. So Trump has opinions about certain things, and then he changes his mind. And some people would call him changing his mind schizophrenic. We never know which way he's going to go. There's a tariff one day, there's no tariff another day, and unfortunately now it's onto pasta, which I got to tell you, the Italians are very, very concerned about. 107% on pasta. This is now cutting into the real core of their life. But we're talking about tariffs, we're talking about numbers on tariffs, financial things, and we're talking about now recently the Epstein files, which I think is a big shift back and forth. Yes, no, and we never know what it is. And I was just looking at that and I was saying, oh, is that really actually what he believes? Or is this about him playing the role for a variety of different levels of what role he would be playing for various timelines for different people as they go through this process? Is he really playing the multiplicity of roles to support each timeline? And I'm curious about that. What do you guys think of this? I mean, honey, if you want to start with that one.
I think yes. And I think also it's giving us an opportunity to choose where we want to be. It's like a litmus test. Which way do we go? And I think we're in a huge choice point right now. So, do you want to be in fear and go into the drama side of it? Do you want to just let go of it? A lot of people are just like done, like they're sick of it. And I know I don't pay a lot of attention, but when I see something and it looks like it's moving us forward, then I do a little celebration. But I think it's choices.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
really, really
don't
important.
have the same
Abby,
point of view,
good. Abby, what do you think?
which is good. As you were
Which means that
speaking,
it's also
Lisa, yeah, well, I
happening.
mean, it really depends on the perspective that you're coming from. But if he's gung ho for this thing and then he goes this way and then he goes that way and then he goes this way, and you're looking at people on the ground who are looking at him as their leader and the reverend and the savior, and oh my God, and what the hell is he doing? And it creates a gap between them, and they're going, hang on a minute, but he said this and now he's saying this. And it's like it's unsticking the stuckness that people have when they glue on. So either they hate him so much and they're glued to their hate, or they love him so much and they're glued to their love. I love how Trump derangement syndrome swings both ways. People are
Mm,
deranged, either hating him or loving him. And if he's doing this, I'm changing my mind, I'm changing my mind. It actually creates a situation where people can choose, as Honey said. I do agree. We're in a choice point. Are you going to choose to be sovereign and get on with your own life and do your own thing, regardless of what these people in these positions are doing or not? And it is a role. It's almost like a Joker role, or where he's taking this and he can't be
yeah.
controlled. Nobody can control him. He can do what he wants. He's the bull in the china shop, and he wants to go this way and then he wants to go that way. And I think it's wonderful, because what he's doing really ultimately is showing us how broken everything has been for years. And if there's no glue holding cohesively that phrase that came in during the pandemic, which was in lockstep, when everyone's doing the
Mm,
same thing and he's not doing that, then he's showing us, oh my goodness, what the heck?
mm,
And I think it's great. I really love it because I'm not attached to any of it.
You're saying something's really interesting. First of all, it's like it's ungluing because whether the derangement is to hatred or to love, is giving up your sovereignty, because that's really what you're talking about here, is that he's detaching you from that creation of giving your sovereignty away, giving your power away to him. And the detachment concept is very interesting, because I think that's really, really critical at this point. But it is a role. It sounds like we're all in agreement that it's a role that he's playing. Now, do you guys see Trump as an example is doing that because he's sort of one of the main characters in this event that we're doing to push people forward. We're seeing it with many others. And we go back and forth. We've got Canadian political figures, we've got French political figures, we've got the UK, which is we're not really sure what's going on there. Is this something that we're going to see across all the players in this process, or do you think it's really sort of the Trump is the main one to sort of push us out of this sort of giving away our power?
You go first, Abby.
Well, what's coming up for me as you're asking this is the whole BBC apology thing,
Mm,
and how, because of Trump, it's like he set off dominoes suddenly. Well, if one of the first things that people felt that they could now talk about freely when you weren't allowed before is the trans agenda, because he just wiped that out immediately. But what's coming up now
mm,
is the BBC a propaganda machine? And if they were doing this to Trump so blatantly and they stood up and apologized, what else did they do? And what's happened because of that is people within the institution of the BBC, because I think it's an institution, are now beginning to speak up more loudly. I watched a 2 hour, was it, no, it's a 1 hour interview with an ex ITV presenter where she basically said she was in the Big Brother house and they spliced together things she said in a different way to make her look bad. They asked her questions and extracted information and plastered that piece all over the TV. So it's a cascade effect of people beginning to show the hidden stuff where stuff wasn't hidden before. And I think that this is very empowering for that. It's not necessarily that they're flip-flopping. They're changing, but what they're doing is the cognitive dissonance, the gap between what they know is true and what they're thinking is true is closing in. And people, I mean, I had that with a client today. If you really are trying so desperately to tell your brain lies when inside you know they're lies, you're not going to be able to make it. And people are exploding, they're imploding, the anger, the anxiety is coming out into the collective. And I
Mm.
think a lot of what you're talking about earlier, honey, you're talking about the upgrades. I'm thinking we're swimming in a sea of anxiety and fear from people like these doctors who've been doing what they've been told and knowing that it's not the right thing to do. And now they have an opportunity to say, well, actually, I was wrong. That's a huge thing to admit that you're wrong.
Mm.
And so, when we feel all these frequencies as empaths and light workers, it affects our physical body.
Mhm.
Mm. That's really interesting. Yeah, honey, what do you think?
So I think that what's going on, another perspective, is the hierarchy. So we're being shown that they don't really know what they're doing, a lot of these people, right? Like they're not doing it for us. So why should we be worshiping them or following what they're doing or caring what they're doing?
Mm.
And I think a lot of people are starting to realize their own sovereignty through that because the future is not about hierarchy. There's no, I know better than you, do what I say. That's going away completely. So we're all equal here, like we're all consciousness. So I think the breakdown is happening all over the world because hierarchy is breaking. And
Mm.
that's another part of it.
Well,
Wow,
sure,
that's
look at the
that's a
monarchy falling apart in the UK. There's the
Yeah.
real classic breaking of
mm.
Mexico.
hierarchy.
Yeah.
Wow. But that concept, that's a really big concept that you're both raising here. Hierarchy is falling apart because that has implications in every system that we have on the planet right now. Not only the system of government, the system of academia, the systems of transportation, the systems of how our belief systems are set up. That's huge. And Abby, that brings into the point you're saying there's going to be even a larger cognitive dissonance if all of these systems are falling apart. Like, if you look at people who are doing well within the system, that's the hardest one to break the system codes right now. Those who are not doing well within the system are not sure where they're supposed to be going. So it's going to be a very interesting ride, the breaking that hierarchy. That's a huge, huge, huge concept that I think requires more thought and provocation as we move forward in our
I don't know
discussions,
if
I
you
think.
guys know this because I haven't seen much about it on the airwaves, let's say outside of Ireland, but we had a presidential election relatively recently.
No, wait, I don't
And the
really know
press,
this.
speaking of hierarchy, the president is a figurehead. They don't actually hold the power of the country. But if the government want to write a new rule, the president has to give it their tick of approval. And if they don't, it can go into the court and they can talk about it and it can be delayed and all that kind of thing. So in our presidential election, we had no candidates that were our voices. They were all pretty much leftist. One guy actually dropped out right before the election, and his face was actually still on the ballot paper, even though he wasn't in there anymore. So there was people disgruntled and angry. Now, the perception of the hierarchy, the perception of the system versus what's actually going on the street are two different things. Because what
Mm,
happened was there was an unprecedented amount of people who spoiled their vote because they were pissed off that they didn't have a candidate. So the president of Ireland stood up there and said, I am a president for all, whereas 313,000 people did not vote for her. They spoiled their vote, they didn't vote for anybody. And it was about 40% turnout overall. Now, okay, I could be wrong with the statistics, but she's certainly not a president for all. And there's the cognitive dissonance. They're not paying any attention to that. So we
mm,
all know on the ground we have a president now that not many people actually like.
mm, mm. But you said,
So
yeah. As I say, you said something important. You said that only 40% of the people voted. In the US, we still have this pressure to vote, whereas in Italy, people are not voting. I mean,
mm.
maybe on a good day you get 40% of people voting because they know it's not kind of thing. So it is a cognitive dissonance. Very interesting. Honey,
Well, what
what's
happened was with the large numbers of spoilt votes has never happened in the history of the country. It showed the government were not happy. So they
mm,
acknowledged it for the first time. They actually gave the figures, which is why we did it, so they could see how many people, what percentage aren't happy. And the government started talking. And now what's happening is they're turning around and changing what they're talking about. Because I think they know in the next election when, the people are like, where's my candidate? We're not putting up with this anymore. So it's opened the floodgates for talking
mm,
about all of these, again, these forbidden topics that are now no longer forbidden. It's like the reinstatement of the YouTube channels that had been
mm,
taken down. It's a
exactly.
big turning around.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting. Wow, that's cool. Honey, what do you think? Anything else on this topic?
I think it's very circular, all the things that are happening. And if we think about what we were told a long time ago, the 5D chess thing with the white hats, we're in a 5D chess game now more than ever, and everything is happening at once. And that's because we're letting go of certain things, like it's an inside job, but it's
Hmm.
also the collective of humanity, because ultimately humanity rules this, because it's the human perspective that is the most important. And that's why we're all here. So we're all here to support humanity in their shift.
Hmm.
And that kind of gets me to my question. I was going to
Yeah,
bring
let's
up.
get your question. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So we're all in this system, but we're letting go of the system right now. And why are we all here? And a lot of us have been here over and over and over. And I know I have, um, as a soul. Now, I've actually been with this human part of me more than once as well. So we have a contract, and contract in the universe is not the same as a court contract, but you have an agreement that you're going to do this together. And I listen to her when, I'm doing too much or I'm not having enough fun or there's something that I'm doing that's hurting her. So
Mm,
thinking about the different kinds of consciousness that I'm dealing with in the same body, but ultimately the human part of us is what's connected to the human body and the human mind and all of that. And we have come in like as a teacher, or the human is the apprentice, and we're basically pulling out of a certain frequency that doesn't work anymore. And humanity is really starting to get it. And they're becoming more and more sovereign. And they're throwing up all of their stuff right
mm,
now. Like there's so many triggered people right now and sick people. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And I think really remembering that this is a big deal, what we're doing, and being proud of ourselves that we're getting through it and we're creating change is important because everybody matters in this scenario that we're basically creating here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really thing. So really your question is really about why are we here now? What are we doing?
Mhm.
Kind of a thing. Abby, do you want to say something about that and then I'll follow from you.
Well, there's many different angles that you could take from that one.
Mhm.
There really is. And when I sit down I'm working on a novel at the moment. Um, a whole new piece came in last week that I didn't expect. It woke me up in the middle of the night, talk about being agitated and not sleeping. And I was
Mm,
angry. And it was accumulation of my ideas, but it was like I was channeling Philip K. Dick, for want of a better word. So there was a bit of the dryness in it that comes with a science fiction story that went into it. But what's really interesting is, first of all, to think that, you know, we're not the be all and end all. There's so much more going on in the universe, in the multiverse than just us. There really is. But where we are now, this realm that we're in, I feel went too dark, went way too dark. It was not supposed to go this dark. It was not supposed to be horrific. And became horrific. And so people were born into it to lift it out of the horrificness. And I think some of them got lost down here. I heard a wonderful story. I don't know if you heard this one, Lisa, that an ascended master got born into a human body and became so, you know, distraught, depressed, addicted, running away from himself or herself that they killed themselves. And so to pave a pathway for those frequencies to be born in as human might have taken generations before, let's say, we are the generation that's actually able to activate and
hmm
start to bring in more because the depth of the darkness and depravity, there's no other word for it on this planet, was horrific. And
mm,
so basically, as a grid being born into these bodies, our souls and our higher selves are lifting the frequency and the trajectory of where we are into something better. And so when Honey's talking about having fun and we're talking about creation and we're talking about how beautiful life could be, that was actually how life was supposed to be, full stop. You
mm,
know, we're just pieces of
yeah,
God having fun, discovering ourselves in different ways, different forms, different scenarios. And whatever happened, it got hijacked, it got, I don't know. We could go into those stories, but we're turning it around. That's what we're doing here. And it is, a really fascinating and interesting time to be alive. I don't think we're out of it yet, but we've really reached the turning point of it. We really have.
yeah,
And I think there's many people, I mean, that just decide that they can't cope with this and that they're going to go. And
hmm
that's okay too. I mean, we think back to that ascended master and how many generations it took for them to be able to be a stable person and then to start to create. There's going to be people that change will be much too quick for some of them. So
yeah.
that's just the way it is. And maybe they get born into another system, if you want to call it a system. Maybe they just become the drop of the ocean in the ocean in the drop. And so
Go
who knows?
back in.
We're never really going to know. We can just make the most of what we have and
Well,
do,
it could
yeah,
be the fodder for like a books. I think we can create lots of narratives about it. And
yeah.
that's beautiful because I mean, I think like, for me, it is all about, I know we're here for a purpose. And as you said, Abby, it could be a variety of purposes. And it could be that each one of us has a specific purpose that suits our soul's development, as part of these soul contracts that we've done. But I do see that, part of it is we are part of a grander experiment of creation of the species of human that is actually a slightly different level of a human, and that we're important to the pieces of the puzzle of this part of the game about how Source is looking to experience and know itself, and that we are participating in that. And all of these things that we've gone through here are an opportunity to see it. I do believe that the darkness was much further than anybody could have understood, but maybe that was also part of the
Mhm.
experience that Source had wanted to know about what that darkness really could do. And then for ourselves to understand how to create. We are part of a creation, we are a creator, and we're experiencing it in this variety of different levels. And I find it fascinating because there are certain parts of our origin story that truly resonate with me, that I believe that we go back for hundreds of millions of years, that this planet has a very big role in the sort of creation of where we are, and that also that there have been things that have been manipulated, and that they've sort of corrected it. And it's just an interesting part to see if we were to look at it. You know how there are, when you do storytelling, and Abby, I'm sure you've used these techniques before, as you tell a story, you can tell the story from the third person, from the first person, but you can also do it where you tell the same story from a variety of different people's perspective. And I think that's kind of where we are right now, that in the universe, we're going to have this grand story, history, grand story from the perspective of we, the humans, of the Palladians, of the Archons, of all these different races, and that we're going to pull this all together, and that it's going to be the most magical, the most incredible story that we've ever had. Yet we're also going to have that. We're doing it with feeling. You know how they say, time to do that take again in the movie, but this time with feeling. We're doing it with feeling. And wow, does that add the level of complexity that we have in this game? So when you say, honey, you said 5D chess again, and I look at myself and I said, I barely play chess. I have no idea what 5D chess really is. If I'm really honest and really vulnerable and say, like, we hear this term and I can visualize it on the holodeck of Star Trek. I can see that. But do I know what that means of coming in from this angle and this angle? And then, honey, you also said, like, and Abby, actually, you said this, we're kind of like, it's time, it's linear, but it's really not, it's looping. We're looping, 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 and we're doing all of this. And the 5D may be the looping and the everything at the same time and everywhere, and we're all seeing it from different perspectives. So I think that the what we're doing here could be different from each and every one of us about why we came here to help, and actually how we came here to help, and seeing how we can weave a new tapestry of a new story of how this universe is.
Well, that's why we all need to talk to each other because each of us has different puzzle pieces and different
Yeah.
perspectives that are all necessary. They
Yeah.
totally are. Yeah.
But I wonder too, honey, I'll ask you this one. Do you think we'll ever really know what the big picture is and what the role we all play here?
Well, I think we will completely once we're not here anymore,
Mm.
if we want to look at all of it. So I don't think that at this point, or even with the original blueprint of humanity, which is coming back in, I don't think the human brain is meant to see all of that. It's too much.
Mm.
And
Mhm,
it does
mhm.
become like a schizophrenic thing. So, somebody who is schizophrenic, I always thought, well, they're just seeing all their parallels. And sometimes they're experiencing them too, like they're in
Mhm,
them
Mm.
mhm, mhm.
and getting confused and being overwhelmed. And I don't really feel like the human brain is set up for that, even once it's totally upgraded. I think there'll
Mm.
still be some awareness that, okay, this is my home, this is my life I'm living. And yes, I'm over there living another experience, but I'm not actually in it. I'm in this one. What am I going to do with this one?
That's why I love
But you
Philip K. Dick. I mentioned his name already. That he had
Mhm,
that experience and he figured out what it was and he wrote about it and it influenced lots of his books where he was a different person in a different time in a similar body, and it was there superimposed on his
Mm,
life right now. And it gave him an insight. He called it the Black Iron Prison because he felt that Rome hadn't disappeared and that we're living in Rome now. It's just something else, which I thought was very interesting. But I would
mm.
always liken it to the very first Macintosh computer that ever came out. Lisa, did you ever have one of those with a little floppy disk and it's a nice little friendly little guy about this? I don't know, is it the size of my teacup or something? And you put in the floppy disk and then you have to go off and you go to the bathroom and you boil the kettle, you make your tea, you come back and it's still kind of
Yeah, it's still
loading
going,
up.
going, going, going.
Then you
Yeah.
go and you turn on the heat, you do something, and it eventually shows up. And then you ask that computer to make the newest Pixar movie animation, it just won't be able to do it. The
Oh no, no,
capacity
no.
of that could not fit into its processor. And that's what Honey is saying. Our brains are that little baby computer thing, our human brains, and the capacity is way beyond anything that we're able to process. It's way too big
Mm,
for us. So even if we do leave our bodies astrally, which happens quite frequently, and I've been given learning dreams and teaching dreams outside of myself, and I do find that I become very expanded out there. I
Mhm.
don't bring all the information in, which I find really interesting because that
mm,
information is still in my field even though it's not in my brain or maybe not in my body, but it's in my field. And sometimes I can go back into it and bring pieces of it down, like little bits of code of things, but not all of it. And what I find really fascinating when you bring in the idea of a sacred site is that I might get an urge to go to a sacred site. I really have to go. And I'm like, I don't know why I have to go. So I go there, and there's an ET there, usually under a dolmen or in a portal dolmen, that puts some of that code into my field that's nothing to do with my brain. I have no idea. And then I just
mm.
happen to be catching a plane the next day and I'm going to visit Honey. And I'm bringing that, physically bringing that piece of energy over to her, and it slips into her. And then she has, so we work with each other for each other. And most of it's not logical. But it's like Mark Atwood says, we're all points of light with the grid and we're supporting each other. And so if we're connected and I need to bring something to you, Lisa, we have to meet up. I'll just trust that I'm shown where I need to go, and that it will just happen naturally and organically as in the background almost.
That's
Mhm.
beautiful, and it's so funny because Abby, you and I were going to go in the same place because you took it into the perspective of the brain and the processing of what you did, and I because the question I would get right out of that is that we've got the brain, which is the receiver, and consciousness, which is expanding. So the human's part of the soul that's in here is working more with the brain and has a consciousness, but consciousness is that receiver, and I think it's akin to what you're saying, Abby, which is the field. So the field is ever expansive, but the brain can receive, but it can't receive everything yet because even if it does receive it, we can't decode, we can't understand what we've received. And I think that's what you were expressing with the concept like our dreams as we go in and out of our body. You still have it. You have these little pieces of it. But the reason you have to decode the dream is because the operating system in the consciousness differs from the operating system in the brain. But the brain is receiving and we're translating, and it's all these things. And maybe at this point, do we see a stronger connection between that field consciousness, which is what we're all striving to upgrade and to enhance and to grow, get larger, expand, and our internal brain's capacity to decode that consciousness.
Think of it like in terms of the internet. If you asked your computer to download every single thing on the internet and contain it, your computer would explode.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the field is like the internet, but it's the internet of consciousness. So we can pick and choose different things. We can pull from it, but we're not going to ever have it all at once in this body because the body would like malfunction. It's too much.
Yeah. And what would we do with it anyway? And what
Yeah,
would the
we don't need
body
it.
do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, what would the body do with it? So we're always sort of online with that. But it's fascinating. It's this consciousness and brain and the interact activity between those two elements. That's really interesting right now. Do you
What
think
might be
others?
interesting, Lisa, is I've worked with clients for 15 years. Now I'm teaching people how to work with clients, but I would work with clients and they would come into my field and we would open the book of them because I would use my imagination for this. And everything about them would come tumbling between us. And we would do the healing work and everything be beautiful. Then I would wrap up the book and put it on the shelf and put it away somewhere in my field. So it wouldn't be held in my body and it wouldn't be held in my brain, but it would be held somewhere. Let's say you talk about the internet, honey. I would say the internet, like Carolyn Miss would say. My own, do you know the way in offices you have your own internet system? It was an intranet and then you have the
Intranet.
internet.
Mhm.
So it would be
Mhm.
something like that. And then I might not see a client for 6 months or a year, and then they come back to me, and I'm like, okay, let's just talk. Let's just talk about the roads and weather. And as I'm doing that, my big library is searching for the shelf and wherever the book is and pulling out that book and dusting it off and it opens up and then suddenly I remember who they are, remember exactly what they did, remember what was going on and I see where are you now? Because that's where you were. So I don't want to, bring that energy back necessarily because that's where they were. But then we do it again and then we fold it all up and put it away. And I always would say to a client, you can't email me between sessions and ask me questions because I've packed everything away and it's going to take me to get it up again. But if people start to realize that you can actually organize your energy that way, you have an idea for 6 amazing books, pack them separately, put them aside. They're in your field, but they're not necessarily in front of you. This is multitasking. Or you could see it like a
Mhm.
wine cellar, and each one is this beautiful casket that's maturing all these different projects. And you can go down and spend time with one or another, and then decant
Mhm.
from it and leave it to mature when you're up here playing with the kids on the floor and having to feed the dog and put away the dishes.
Well, that's a beautiful analogy. I love that because the multitasking thing is really complex in our society. It adds a lot of anxiety to people. That's a beautiful way. Love that. Love that. Thank
Well,
you.
you trust the
Wow.
process and trust yourself that nothing will be lost. Nothing that is of worth will ever be lost. And that's a question of you tuning into the frequency of what that thing is. And using the
Mm,
imagination to help, obviously, was the barrel of wine. Which one was it? Or the
mhm,
cheese or the book?
mhm,
That's my imagination playing with. The frequencies are all different. But if you were to stand on a bookshelf and each book has its own frequency too. So everything is frequency. And once you start working with that, you can really play and have fun with it. And
mm.
feel less anxious and remember to get big and expansive because you can hold so much more now than you ever could. Everybody, anyone who's watching this, anyone who's listening, who's still here, has expanded dramatically over the last 3 to 5 years.
I mean, it's so clear. I mean, if we really look back at who we were 3, 5, 10 years ago, we are so different in our abilities, in our interests, in our competencies. It's quite extraordinary. It's really amazing, the expansion of consciousness, and this brain is receiving it. And what you're just describing again, that interactivity between consciousness and the receiver, the brain. Because we keep a lot of this saying, like, our brain can't do this, our brain is like, yeah, the brain is just receiving. And what you're saying is like, now it's time to learn how to organize this receiver that we have so we can play around with it in a much more efficient manner. Because we are expanding so much. Very interesting. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Abby, I think you had a question or you had a topic that you wanted to share.
Well, it's just
And
really
that was
interesting
it.
how it all flows together. I mean, when we started off talking about Trump changing his mind, changing the attachment to the old ways, now we're talking about expanding, how to organize, how to contain things while not getting overwhelmed. What I was talking about before we pressed record was very interesting about the future, the children, the role of education, and where we're all going to.
Hmm.
Because I brought
Hmm.
my two youngest daughters. My youngest is 16, my other one is going to be 18 next year, and my 18 to be is taking her final examinations at school in Ireland, and she's going to be going to college. So we went over to visit my mom. So you're talking about shifting of expectations, what the world is like right now. And she's like, what do you want to do in college, my mom? And my daughter said, right now she's interested in linguistics and philosophy. So my mother says, what the heck kind of job are you going to get from that?
The practical, right?
So I said to mom, I said, well, I don't believe you go to college to get a job. And she's like, what? And I said, if you want to get a job after school, you become an apprentice. You follow somebody around and learn a trade, and then you work at that trade. And people want to do that, and that's wonderful. You become an electrician or a plumber, a hairdresser or a silversmith, any of those things is fabulous. I said, but you can go to college to learn how to think. So what I was saying to my mom, which I think is really important, is to change our views on what the things that might be broken but can still serve us. If my daughter learns linguistics, for example, she learns the basis of language, how language is constructed, a deeper sense of communication, how to use different ways of talking to different people. She's just fallen back in love with Irish. I wouldn't even say back in love. She's fallen in love with Irish, which is our language, which everybody in this country goes to school and learns Irish for 12 years and nobody remembers it. It's like you're brainwashed. You walk out and you forget everything. And she's just fallen in love with it to the point that she did a 4-hour masterclass on Saturday just on Irish, and she's just loving it. But
Wow.
then philosophy teaches you how to think, how to give a good argument, how to put things together, how to research. So connecting the two together for me is like, brilliant foundation to set your life on. It's not going to lead you to a specific job in particular, but then, as I said to my mother, and people listening might find this interesting, the landscape of all the jobs have changed because of AI. And we have a choice, are we going to use AI to help us for good things, or is it going to just dominate and take over? And so already we're seeing people whose brain are deteriorating because they're not using it because AI is doing all the things for them. But then we can also see where AI is helping us learn things faster, speed things up. And so to detach our ideas from what jobs might be out there now, to say in 5 years' time, there's going to be jobs out there that don't exist right now because we're going to create them instead of saying, oh, it's going to be terrible and there's going to be no jobs for anyone. Say, no, we're going to create really, more interesting things to do because AI, hopefully will do all the stuff that we don't like to do. And that's really
Hmm.
where it should come in.
Yeah.
So that was
So,
kind of blew my mom's mind open there because she's like, "Oh, that was really interesting." She liked that, it's good.
wow.
Good change.
But the first thing you said, though, is that, and this is the current belief system, is that the only value of education is to get employment. And employment is the creation of the foundation of a good life because it gives you income and it gives you status and identity. I think that's the current belief system.
Mm,
What you just said really is just goes against that whole belief system, which is the first thing is education equals job equals happy life and the ability to survive and have because it's all about money. And he just flipped that script, which is very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love it because she's tapped into what's needed. So we're on a planet that was created for communication. And she's tapped into, well, I want to learn about communication. I want to understand that. And kids her age, they're going to create their own job. They're not going to depend on it for money. They're going to do it because they love it.
Mm.
So she knows what she's here for and she's creating it already. whether she consciously is completely aware of it or not. And that's completely beautiful. And your mom is representing the 3D idea of what we're saying no to now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you
Yeah.
were the in between person saying, no, we're not doing that anymore. I'm here to help create the foundation for the next generation that is actually building and participating in the new.
Mm.
So we're creating the foundation for the next group. And I think it's fabulous. I mean, what an amazing amount of things going on in that one conversation.
You
Yeah.
know, what's really interesting to me is our generation over the last few years, I've found have become incredibly impatient because they can see so clearly what's broken. Can't necessarily visualize what's needed, but knows that something else is needed, but they want it all to happen now. And as soon as I came to terms, let's put it like that, I came to terms that this is a marathon and not a sprint. All of a
Mm.
sudden, the pressure was released. And when the
Mm.
pressure is released, you know what happens? The creativity just comes in so much more quickly. If you're
Mm.
not wanting it all, I'm going to wake up tomorrow, wave my magic wand, and everything's going to be better. No, it's not. You know, people
Oh,
needed to
enjoy the
go.
ride. Enjoy the
Yeah,
ride is what you're
they needed
saying.
to go and
Enjoy.
spoil their vote for the presidential
Yeah.
election in Ireland. They needed to get up and go out. And what's going to happen next? I don't know. I'm sitting back, further back, let's say, from the TV of the world stage, and I'm enjoying it. And I will dip into certain things. Like today, X was down, and okay, it'll come back. I'm not like, oh my God, it's down. You know, it'll come back. Just
Maybe
put the
not. Who knows?
you
Whatever,
and
whatever
everything
that
else.
thing.
You know, it's
Yeah.
not there. Okay, I'm going to go outside and listen to the birds instead, you know, and do that as well. And start to really nourish and enrich not just your body with the right food, but your brain and your mind with, you know, with music and arts and good books. I used to now talk about the old system. I would finish every book I bought because I felt an obligation to it. And now I find if a book is boring or if it's just not interesting, I just say, no, forget it. And I don't finish them. And I've never been like this. I said, I don't want to waste my time reading something that's crap. I just
Yeah.
don't,
Well,
you
it's not
know?
fulfilling you. It's not doing that. No, it's really interesting what you're saying. When I was listening to this, there was something that I just heard today as they were going through this breathing technique, and it goes back to the point that you're making, honey, about language or communication. That's what we're here to do. And in the breathing exercises in the sort of the normal models of the prana, that it says that when you breathe in, and then you can create a mantra with it, that you used to be given a mantra that was in Sanskrit, and
Mm,
it was specifically for you. And the Sanskrit word was given to you because it had a frequency that was specific to healing you. And that's what you used as you breathed in and breathed out, that mantra with a Sanskrit word that had the frequency customized to your physical frequency need. And I thought that really makes sense what you were saying, Abby, and honey, you're saying we're communication. It is communication because when we communicate, where we've been using words right now in this culture and what we've been experiencing, but we used to use facial expressions, but we also use sounds and tones and they're all frequencies. And
mm,
that's really interesting because when you say the study of linguistics, it's like we're still not understanding each other all the time because we're the Tower of Babel and we don't have all the different languages. And I really sit in this right now. But when I listen to things, there's so much that I get out of it, even though I don't understand the specific words by the tone, just the tones that we're doing. So I think that's beautiful what you're talking about,
Well, that's
communication.
exactly right, Lisa. I would have clients years ago whose native tongue wasn't ever English. And so when they have something they want to get out to their mother and they're visualizing their mother's higher self, say it in your natural language. They'd be sitting there saying it in Vietnamese, they'd be saying it in Italian, and you just knew what they were saying, even though you didn't know what the words meant. But what's
Yeah.
really interesting about the Sanskrit mantras, because the way I would work would be with affirmations that we would prescribe for a client. With the
Mm,
Sanskrit mantras, I think the true meaning of the Sanskrit has been lost. It's through over time. And so when I would get a client who would be doing Sanskrit mantras, they wouldn't really know what it means, and it would come as a hand-me-down from 15 other people, and it would lost its power, and it wasn't necessarily specifically for them, then it was wrong for them. So I would
mhm,
always say, no, you don't understand what that means. Let's renew your mantra in your own natural language and make them powerful words that are meaningful to you. And then that's what's going to make the difference. Because again,
mm,
you could be repeating Sanskrit, but if somebody tells you this means I can and I will, instead of you going, oh, mani padme om, you're going, I can and I will. You're actually working with the essence of the frequency of I can and I will. And all the bits of you that say, no, I can't and I won't, will show up, and you can release them. And then you really drop into the energy and frequency of I can and I will. And then it's really powerful for you. So whoever
mm.
speaks Sanskrit as their natural language can do it in Sanskrit.
Right, exactly. It's just the model of what it is, but it's all about communication. So, honey, what else do they mean about when they say this is the planet of communication? Is there something specifically that we should be learning here in communication?
Well, so Earth was created to help come out of polarity. And polarity, like learning from each other, having a conversation like we're having a conversation, and not thinking that anybody's better than anybody else. And knowing that you want to see the other person's perspective and you want to learn something that way versus learning something from somebody who's like your shadow, right? So healing in different ways and communicating. So it was created for ETs, humans, Titans, everybody to come together and learn from each other and see their different perspectives that these soul groups were created with. And then you
Mm,
come down to the individual that was created slightly differently. And community and all the things that we're talking about quite a lot now are part of that, learning how to communicate, because the universe is coming out of fighting with each other in order to learn.
mm,
So
mhm,
that's why Earth was created in the first place. And then there were some beings that were still very polarized, still very traumatized, and they decided to pull it down into a density that was really, really hard to come out of. So the universe agreed to learn that way, but the depravity became way too much, just like Abby was saying. And
mm,
we don't agree to that. The consciousness doesn't want to support any of that anymore. So we've
mm,
been here trying to pull out of it for
mhm,
thousands of years. And now we are finally doing it. It's happening.
mm,
So
mhm,
we will go back to learning how to communicate in a beautiful way. And it'll take time for us to do that.
mm,
But
mhm,
I think, just a conversation like this is helpful because we're talking about what the purpose of Earth is. It's for us to come together and see each other's perspective and not get attached to, no, you have to do it my way or else it's not okay.
mm,
Because that's the human nervous system kicking in and creating from fear and needing to be safe. And those are the things that we're healing right now so that we can
mm.
have these conversations.
Wow. I've heard that the nervous system is the topic, is the key to your point. Like if we are healing that nervous system, which really puts us into a place of physical safety, so then we can create and can have joy and can do all these things that we are capable of doing. It's really the foundation. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Ladies, this was fun. This was
It's
super
really
fun.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So Abby, so lovely to have you. Like really bring this into more of the spiritual side, which is really lovely. Does
Well, I
anybody have
think
any?
when you connect to God, source, energy, to trust the process of this, and you release the tightness and the attachment to needing to be right, needing it to be my way, to give the space and to honor and cherish the other. And I love that community and communication sounds, if you're studying linguistics, you could leave a comment and tell me what the connections are, but they sound like they're from the root of the same word.
Yeah,
So people who talk to each other and listen to each other form a community. They
yeah,
communicate. It's
yeah.
it's beautiful.
And we are so much stronger as we come together. We all say we are one. And it really is amazing as we come together how much we are filling in those pieces of the puzzle that we can. And we learn so much more relationship, communication. Beautiful. Well, ladies, I think that's for me, I think that
I think
covers
that's
it.
a
Do you have
wrap.
anything else? Yeah, I think it's a wrap.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we exit stage left? But
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to you both. And Abby, what a wonderful pleasure. What a wonderful treat it is to see you again. And honey, I always have a wonderful time with you. And thank you for sharing this time and space. This is Lisa from Question the Narrative, wishing everybody a wonderful day. Ciao.
Love you guys.